All right, welcome back to Chapter 9. We're going to carry on and talk about properties. So a property is a class member that holds a piece of data about an object. So again, it's a class member. It means it's another feature that the instance of this object can do. So properties can be implemented as a special method that they refer to as setting and getting the value of a corresponding field. So we've used properties when we've looked at objects. When we click on an object or create an object, we can go over to the property window and we can get and we can set its value. And to do that, we're going to need what they refer to as a backing field. So this is a field that's in the back waiting for us to assign it to the property. So what we've got here is an example of a class called, let's create a class here called pet. And within pet, we're going to have a field here called a backing, what they refer to as a backing field. It's sort of like an internal name that's being used for this particular class. And they use an underscore here to sort of differentiate this backing field because it's used primarily for placing it into a property. Now, this particular, the next one here, that's creating the backing field. Now, the next one here is called the constructor, which, again, it says pet, that's the name of the class, and we've got a method here called pet, hence it makes it the constructor. So during the creation of an instance of this object, of creating a pet, we want to utilize this backing field by placing basically nothing in there. We're going to assign nothing there, just initialize it so there's no name to the pet to start with. And now, the third thing here is another member. It's called a property. So we look at fields, we've looked at methods in the previous one. Now we'll have a look at what a property looks like. So a property is a characteristic of a pet. So a pet, of course, has a name. A pet has an age, a pet has a breed, a pet has all sorts of properties. So this is just an example of a property. Now, to be able to set a name to this property, we need to be able to internally take this value parameter of which is set. They refer to it as a set accessor. It's automatically created in the compiler. So this gets automatically set, and it sets that whatever the value is that gets entered for the name to a backing field. This is the backing field I'm talking about that's internally used, and in turn that backing field gets a value and it returns it to the property name, and actually hence that's what allows us to be able to set a name and get a name. So it's allowing us to enter a name and then assign the name. They refer to this as getting and setting, or set the name and then get the name. All right, so that's a little bit on how this property works. Now, just elaborating a little bit further on that, setting an instance of my dog object's name property to Fido, for example. So we've created an instance of an object, a pet object here called my dog. By default, it inherits, or it has this ability to have a property that we called name, and we could assign it equal to, let's say, Fido. And when we do that, what we're doing essentially is we're taking Fido and putting it inside of this value here that gets put into the name backing field, and then that backing field gets the name and returns it to the property name called name right here. And hence what we end up getting is the name Fido entered in here as the name of the property of that instance of that dog. So a little more on the backing field. It's a private backing field. It's a variable that stores the value assigned to the property which the backing field is associated with. It is declared to be private to protect it from accidental corruption. If it was public, there could be some information that could get changed, so that's why it's declared privately. It's only used by that particular member. If the backing field is public, it could be accessed directly by code outside the class without the necessary or the need of an accessor. So that's why these backing fields are private, and they're primarily just used when we're looking at setting and getting a value into a variable name.